Hi Sue, it's the 15th of May here. You had been asking for an update on the New Zealand data. So I've done some calculations and I put it together. There's not much of a change from what I had predicted before. This won't be over until the 31st for New Zealand, I believe, even though you have new cases, no new cases for the last couple of days. I think on the 14th there was one new case, so it still needs about a couple of weeks for everything to be resolved and before we're absolutely sure that the virus has become extinct in Aotearoa. Here we are on the New Zealand page, New Zealand pulled up within Statsfolio. We can see this is the daily graph, the daily new cases daily, and we see that there was one case on the 14th of May. This is the 15th of May here, so it's the 16th of May obviously in New Zealand. People have been looking at this graph and going by this graph, which is very, very misleading. This is not the graph you should be going on, because even though this one case is going to take another 14 to 20 days before that case is resolved. So this is really the graph we should be looking at. This is basically the active cases is what we want to see, which is this one. If we go over here, we see that we have still within New Zealand 56 active cases. They need time to be resolved, and from now the 15th we should get no more new cases, and until all active cases have been resolved, you're not really safe, because the data you're getting is coming from reported data that comes from medical authorities. They're confirmed hospitals and medical authorities. So this graph here is the one to look at, which is the active cases graph. You have an inflection point down around here somewhere. Then we have a peak point up around here. You have a second inflection point starting to hit around here, and then there will be a resolution, which I have predicted to be the 31st of May, and I think we're pretty well on. So I come down to this part so I can export all the data. The data I can export into a spreadsheet, and then from the spreadsheet make predictions on where we're going to be. Here we are in the spreadsheet. We've brought the data over. There's the Statsfolio data that I had, which is just copy pasted in, and now we're going to put this in with the New Zealand data. On the left we have what I've calculated as a little under 1600, and it seems that seems to be quite accurate. Timing's pretty good too. Timing's not bad, although I had this, it's reasonably close. It's about 2 weeks separated. I've noticed that what I predicted has a bit off in the timing by about 2 weeks from the model that I've made. Active cases, again, I had predicted about 1100. We're just over 900. The peak happened at about 40 days, 42, 43 days. Here we have the peak happening roughly about maybe 27, 30 days. So again, we're out by that length of time. Deaths, I had predicted 22 actually, just previous. We're at 21 deaths, and I hope I'm wrong, and no one else succumbs to this disease. Another thing to point out, and that's this number here that I calculated, how fast is New Zealand or any country, which is this, it's just 12%, minus 12%, meaning that New Zealand is killing the growth rate at 12% a day and is still happening, because I just did this calculation. You're still killing the growth rate at 12% a day. So the growth rate is dying at 12% a day. And the growth rate started at about 125% a day. So it's gone for 125% a day, and you've been killing that. Recently it's down to about 12% a day, which means that's where the success is. And that's because the virus is no longer is running out of places where it can find a host. So it has no host, and the virus becomes extinct as a result. It dies out. So I had the peak date a little bit sooner than what actually happened. The final date, making adjustments because it's a long tail, is still the 31st of May. So I think you've got to stay inside till the 31st of May. And I think that's fairly well substantiated, because the graph to look at is this active cases graph. Go out a little bit. The graph we're looking at is the active cases graph, and that graph seems to match quite well for the shape of the graph. It's actually the shape of the graph that I'm looking for. And then I can take the numbers on the shape of this graph, matches to the shape of this graph. The scale is the same, so we can just take this onto this and be able to make accurate predictions. And that's how I've gotten to the results. So just wanted to say that New Zealand has done extremely well. Please stay safe. Please stay inside for another 2 weeks, and this thing will be killed, and it'll become a completely different world when you come out, because there are very, very few places that have actually made this virus extinct, and those are the ones that can be dealt with. I've heard that Australia and New Zealand have now formed a protective bubble, and working together, which is absolutely wonderful and marvelous. So we can see that when Australia hits 0 active cases, then they will be resolved, and that becomes quite a remarkable thing. New Zealand and Australia will be in a very, very good position when that happens. And well done for killing this thing so quickly. Thank you.